Hello and welcome to Carnivorist Chats. My name is James, your host. I started this podcast to help other folks share their own healing stories and to interview thought leaders and experts in the carnivore, keto, and low oxalate space. Before we begin, I'd like to give a shout out to Equip Foods and the Carnivore Bar. As an affiliate, you can use the link in the show notes to get a discount on their products when you check out using the code Carnivorist. Thanks in advance for listening, subscribing, and any likes or shares. And now, on with the podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Carnivorist Chats. It's James, your host. I am really honored today to be joined by a friend of mine and a young lady who I credit with inspiring me in the carnivore space when I first started out through her online presence and recipes and all the good things that she puts out on her social media channels. And it is Courtney Luna. Courtney, welcome to Carnivorist Chats.
Thank you. I'm already stuck on you calling me a young lady. I don't hear that anymore, so thank you.
I am getting old now. I realize that you are definitely a young lady and you're rocking it out in this carnivore space, Courtney. So thank you again for all that you've done. It really was helpful to me when I first started out, and I'm sure you've got a lot of messages from folks that have said the same.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's awesome because here I am just sharing my journey, and to know that it's like helping others, it's like, okay, that's what it's all about. So thank you. That's awesome.
And we're going to dive into what your journey looked like and why you got into the carnivore diet, Courtney. And I love your handle for your podcast, Eat Meat and Question Everything. It's so true. Did you come up with that, or how did you come up with that?
I did, and I don't even know like where it came from. It just spoke to me. Yeah, definitely the question everything, over the last 3 years is when I started to wake up for just a lot of different topics. So I question everything. And then now that I'm just eating meat, it's like, all right, here we go, eat meat and question everything. So I think it's kind of cute.
And it's really appropriate too, because I often talk about this with my guests, is that once you start to realize, and a lot of folks that like myself experience the brain fog that came along with my past dietary choices and ill health, and you start to realize that we really should be questioning a lot more stuff out there. It's almost like getting red pilled in the matrix. You start to look into everything, and we'll talk about your recent no pun intended dive into other lifestyle levers like cold plunging. I thought that was so great. But let's start from the beginning, Courtney. I know you were a chef on a yacht, and you spent some time down in St. Thomas. Tell us all about how you got into this way of eating and a little bit on your journey.
Yeah, so I have a long history of, I call it wonky eating disorder, whatever you want to call it. I went to my first Weight Watchers meeting at age 13, and it wasn't like pushed upon me, it was suggested. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So that was my intro into the food and dieting world. And it was a shit show ever since. So, long history of yo-yo dieting. You name the diet, I've tried it. Like the slim fast diet, or just eating like protein bars, or the Special K diet, not the drug, but the cereal. They were like promoting their cereal, like have 2 bowls of cereal a day, I think, and a sensible dinner. So you name it, I've tried it. It got a little better over time. I did find the paleo diet in 2010. I specifically remember this date because I was on my first boat, and my mom sent me Mark Sisson's Primal Blueprint. So that was my intro into paleo. And that was I never really stuck with it. It was always on and off. I was always coming about it from a weight loss stance and not really thinking about the bigger picture of health. I think I equated a thin body to a healthy body. So I was always using that for weight loss. And then I found keto, low carb. And the last 7 years, I was on and off keto, and I can never really stick with that. I'm realizing now, because I was having like the keto treats and this and that. So I know now that I need to abstain and I can't moderate. So that's why that never worked for me totally. It did help me lose weight, but I would just fall off, have cheat nights, have cheat weeks. So how I came to carnivore was I was doing low carb keto. I lost 50 pounds after my second baby, and I stopped doing what was working for me. I don't know why, but I got caught up in the anti-diet culture BS that they're, promoting on social media. And I'm like, yeah, no foods are bad. Everything's on the table. I should be able to eat everything in moderation, right? Because that's what they tell us to do. Well, if you're a sugar addict, it's really hard to once in a while have some croissants. So I gained 40 pounds in 4 months, felt miserable. I looked miserable. My skin was awful. My depression was like at an all-time high. And then I was on TikTok and my husband was sending me Paul Saladino's videos. He sent them to me for like a month before we even talked about it. And then one day I'm like, why are you sending me these? Like, should we not be eating vegetables? Like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, you're nuts. And he's like, I don't know. I need to look into it. But we were just watching him. And so that was our kickoff to this. Like, even being in the keto space, I never once heard of carnivore. I don't know why I was so like out of the loop. I followed different, influencers and blogs and stuff and never saw this. So that was my intro. I started off animal based, never thinking that I would go strict carnivore. I think my sugar addicted brain was happy to have that fruit, but I quickly realized that wasn't working for me. So 5 weeks after, I ditched the fruit completely, no sugar, no honey or anything. And I've been strict carnivore ever since.
Courtney, I'm sure with you talking to folks as well, a lot of people that have found the carnivore way of eating sort of dabbled their toes into the keto space first, then realized there was another level to this as we started to investigate. And it was ironic that you as well, I found Paul and his work early on too. Coming from a vegan background for myself, you can imagine I could just not fathom that there isn't any vegetables or fruit on my plate, period. I was like blown away that you could just eat only meat and that's it. What was the sort of first things that you noticed as you transitioned? Because I think we talked about it. You started last year in May, you said, full
Yeah, I
carnivore?
started in May. Yeah, and I was already showing up on social media with my low carb stuff and then my intuitive eating. And then I was like, "Hey, I'm going to share what I'm trying right now." So I do like have all this documented, which is cool. And I remember sharing this and being like, "God, okay, this is a little crazy, but I'm like desperate because I don't feel great." And I remember like almost instantly, like the first week, I felt such a huge difference. I don't know if it's also because I'm so excited to do this too, but I was just like on a high and I felt really good. And so the things that started happening were like, I would say within a month, like my skin cleared up drastically. Like I've always had horrible skin, acne, lots of scarring because I'm a picker. So that has cleared up a lot. No gas or bloating. It is wild. I mean, maybe this is TMI, but I'm all about the TMI. Like the amount of gas I would have on keto because I would eat these low carb tortillas and I would like essentially binge on them too. I would probably have like 4 or 5 a day. And I think they they each had like 15 grams of fiber. So which is like an insane amount of fiber. And so my stomach was constantly torn apart, but it's like who cares as long as your net carbs are low. Yeah, that was a big change, like zero gas. And people like don't believe it. They think I get a lot of comments like your farts must be horrible because everyone thinks of like protein farts. I'm like, they don't exist. I don't have any. So that's been awesome. My mental health, I feel like that's been a huge thing that I didn't even know could come of this. Had no clue. Like it wasn't like someone was like, "Oh, your depression can be healed by doing this." So that was actually a very surprising benefit. I would say probably after a couple months, I mean sooner, but after a couple months, I'm like, I wonder if I could go off my meds. Like I feel really good because my medication was lowered so much because it was so high I felt numb. So I lowered it and it wasn't enough. So I still didn't feel great. So I was able to notice a shift even though I was still on meds while I ate this way. So I was able to go off of my Zoloft, which is a depression and anxiety medication. And that I feel like is just, that's been life changing right there. And I've heard a lot of other people have that success too. And my other big one would be the food freedom, which doesn't make sense to people because they're like, how do you have food freedom when you don't eat any foods? You're just having meat. But like I said before, the whole moderating and abstaining thing, I have to abstain from things that could not make me feel good, but also that could be triggering for a binge. I mean, my husband could have a cupcake and then go right back to carnivore the next day and not give it another thought. For me, that would spiral into dozens of cupcakes and I would just be on track. So that's been a huge thing for me is having that freedom where you're not mentally thinking about all this food and I'm not obsessively thinking about if I can fit these donuts into my macros, or don't try and have them, or have them and try not to binge, or binge and then restrict. Like it's just been mentally freeing.
I'm similar to you in that my doctor, when I was at my sickest, I was anxious all the time. They wanted to put me on Prozac. In fact, I still have the bottles they prescribed to me, the first ones, and I refused to take them. I don't know if that was a smart decision at the time, but I was like, I know I've never been depressed in my life. I knew it was because of my dietary choice being a past vegan and anxious all the time, and my gut biome was destroyed by all the antibiotics I had taken. And I basically went carnivore to try and literally save my life. But what I didn't realize what was going to happen was the unbelievable mental clarity that came along with this. It's just huge. Let's dive into that a little bit further, Courtney, on the abstaining versus moderating. I know you talk about you discovered that as you went into the carnivore diet, and dairy was a trigger for that, was it not? And how are you working dairy now? Are you incorporating it back? I knew you went off it for a while. What's happening there?
Dairy is my arch nemesis. I still struggle with it. And I mean, it spoken like a true addict, but I'm like, I'll never give it up completely, you know? So I'm just trying to figure out that balance for me because I love it. It makes me happy and it makes carnivore like a little bit more sustainable for me. But I do acknowledge and recognize that it does have a hold on me sometimes. If I don't have it one day, I'm not thinking about it. But if I do have it one day, then it kind of kicks in my hunger cues, like or not my hunger cues. It kicks in like my snackiness. It messes with my hunger cues. It makes me a little bit more snacky that day, and I just want more of it. So I'm trying to find that balance, maybe because I'm doing my cookbook stuff right now, and it is going to have recipes that have dairy. So I am going to be eating dairy. So I'm trying to figure out maybe I have some non-dairy days, just keep a couple days for like recipe development where I'm having it. But yeah, that's been my biggest struggle is trying to moderate that dairy. And it's not even like cheese. It's more like the heavy cream. Like I love a creamy coffee. So and I could easily chug cream out of the bottle. So yeah, I'm still kind of figuring that one out.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with you. I love my dairy. I have my kefir in the mornings. I actually still have raw cheese. I incorporate some heavy whipping cream in the evenings, and I have my little bit of fruit, my tiny blueberries, just to keep some oxalate stuff in for my diet. And I fully admit, I love it. And I know that I have a bit of a trigger where dairy is concerned. However, I tell folks all the time, and I'm sure you found when you first started that it makes the transition to the carnivore diet that much easier, but you just have to be aware, don't you, that it can be addicting. Speaking of which, when you did start the carnivore diet, you dove right in, you say, and like talk to us about when you first started. You did you incorporate things like the organ meats or chicken and fish, and how has that changed over time for you, Courtney?
Yeah, when we started, it was mostly burger patties. We had some steaks, but very heavy on the burger patties. I did have a little bit of kefir. I had some raw cheese, and I had mainly like some blueberries, some other fruits, but mainly blueberries. And I was very mindful of my carbs too. So I probably kept them like under 75, maybe around 50. I did put some maple syrup on my burgers, which is amazing, by the way. I do miss that. We did have all the animals, but I just remember I'm like thinking back on what my videos at that time looked like. And it was a lot of beef, some bacon as well. And then I would have some avocados too. But we kept it pretty simple. I didn't really dive into all these recipes for a while, actually.
Again, a lot of folks do the similar entry into the diet. Then as they go along, they find that they feel better just on ruminant meat and salt and without the spices and stuff. But everyone's different. Let's say that. And I'm sure you find people reaching out to you like, how do we do this? How am I going to do it? I'm going to miss all these foods. Like, what advice do you give to people when they're starting out? I know you have that PDF that folks can go to, starting out on the carnivore diet, which is tremendous. I got a copy myself when you put that out. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. But yeah, what do you suggest to folks that are starting out?
Yeah, I mean, just keep it simple. Do what you can, do what's going to work. I wouldn't suggest, day one, cutting out coffee, cutting out dairy, cutting out this and that. Like, you can even ease into it. There's going to be adjustment period in the beginning with the fat intake as well. So there's nothing wrong, I don't think, with easing into this. Maybe slowly make some changes. I mean, you can go cold turkey, but if you're coming from a standard American diet, maybe just start pulling back some of those carbs, go low carb, keto. But yeah, just whatever's going to make this work for you. If you want to use seasonings, go for it. I think it also depends on if you have some autoimmune issues you're trying to figure out, or if you're just coming from like a weight loss place. A lot of people that have autoimmune issues can't even tolerate the spices. So just know, like, be aware, like, what your why is and why you're doing this. And then, you can slowly make some tweaks. You can play around with pulling out dairy. You can see if you want to give up coffee. Like, don't do everything on day one.
For sure, because it can seem a little bit overwhelming, especially if you're dealing with health related issues, tremendous brain fog like I was. I couldn't even fathom, as I was saying, not having vegetables on my plate. So I went the slow keto route. Then I added slowly the animal foods back in. My gallbladder and my liver were wrecked from years of bad eating, and I couldn't digest the fats properly. So my transition in was very long and slow, but one step at a time. You're absolutely right, Courtney. Let's jump into something which I know a lot of folks have come at you for, and that is your family. And are your family, I know you just made a YouTube video on your kids are not carnivore, and I love it because you're and should be a very fiercely protective mama when it comes to your kids. It must be really difficult in this space. And let's talk not only about that with the pushback on sometimes on your kids, but also the pushback that you get for just eating meat. It's hard in this area sometimes, isn't it?
It's so frustrating. Like these comments really chap my ass. And what really bothers me is, you can make fun of my food all you want. You can say this looks absolutely disgusting. I don't care. But when you come after, like, gosh, this is so unhealthy. Like, when you attack like that kind of thing, like, that's annoying. Like, because then it's like, no, you're misinformed, you're brainwashed. So I get a little like defensive on those. I try to leave it alone, but sometimes I just have to clap back. But yeah, the kids thing, that, like, I could reach through the phone and punch somebody in the face. Like, that really bothers me because they're telling me that I'm going to cause an eating disorder in my kids, or they're going to call CPS on me because my kids aren't getting nutrition. And it's like, well, first of all, meat is the most nutritious thing we can be eating. And yes, you can eat plants and get things from those, but you don't have to. Eating meat's going to be more bioavailable than what you're getting from plants. Meat has all you need. You don't have to eat the plants if you don't want to. So that's frustrating. And I do try and be aware of my whole approach with this with my kids, because I don't want to give them an eating disorder. So while that comment bothers me, I get where they're coming from. Like, it's valid in a way, but I feel like it's directed at the wrong person. I don't think what I'm doing is, I'm not doing this as like a fad diet to lose weight. And I think that's what people think. So my thing is just teaching my kids proper nutrition, and we teach them about macros. And I've never said any words about losing weight or fat or whatever. They don't know that I'm also doing this for weight loss. So we try and teach them to, just be mindful about what they're eating. So they are very animal based, very animal heavy. We talk to them about how our body needs protein and our brains need fat. And so they'll eat burgers and they'll flex and they'll be like, look at my muscles. And you ask my 2-year old to say, Hazel, like, what is fat? And she'll be like, flavor. So we just try and teach them like what it is they're eating and why they're eating it. And they do have some fruit, but honestly, I'm mindful of that too, because they can eat a lot of fruit and go off the rails. Like, it's still sugar and it affects their behavior. So I just try and educate them. We talk more about like the macros of things, like, okay, if you're going to have a fruit, then have a protein with it. Like, get some salami or a cheese stick or something. So it's not just these carbs and sugar. So, I'm just mindful. I don't want them to get older and go to one of their friends' house and binge on all the things I don't allow at the house. So we do allow things here and there. If they go to a birthday party, it's like, all right, if you want to have that cupcake, then have it, but pay attention to how you feel afterward. Is your stomach hurting? Are you running around like a crazy person? Like, that's because of the cupcake. So we just like them to be aware, listen to their body, and then provide them with proper education on nutrition, and just hope for the best that I don't fuck them up.
I definitely think you're setting them up for the best possible future, Courtney. I mean, I wish that I had had that dietary guidance when I was younger, because I mean, but unfortunately, my parents and our parents were raised in that low fat, generation where it was vilified, as we know. And Yeah, you're just setting them up for such good things and good habits. So I'm really proud of you. I love reading your comments when you do clap back at these people because they can just be downright rude, in my opinion. Like some of them are just terrible. I mean, I get enough being an ex-vegan and now I'm eating meat again, but to come at you about how you're raising your kids, just not cool. I just have another question on in that topic. Is your husband carnivore now, or does he eat? I'm sure he eats mostly meat with you. Is he doing the carnivore diet?
Yeah, he's carnivore. He will have things like once in a while that aren't carnivore, but like I said, he can moderate things, so it's not an issue for him. He can, go right back on track. But everything we have in the house, like for us, is pretty carnivore or animal based for the kids. So yeah, once in a while, like if he travels for work, maybe he'll have some potatoes with his steak, but it's rare. And yeah, I mean, this whole thing was his idea, so this is his fault.
This is true. Going back to him sending you the Saladino TikTok videos.
Yeah.
Courtney, talk to us about. I know you had a little sort of foray into the lion diet and an experiment with the lion diet. One of the questions I asked folks to submit some questions was, how did that go for you? And what did you see any major benefits, or were there some pitfalls for you? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I felt great, but comparing it to BBBE, I didn't feel any better. They both had me feeling good. I was missing, I guess, the other animals. So I stopped after 3 weeks because I wanted other animals, but this cookbook thing, like I'm like, I need to get going on these recipes. So that was part of it too. But I felt good. The scale went down. I really think it all just comes to the dairy. If you're able to like have a little bit of dairy, then that's fine. But if mine gets a little out of control, then that stalls my weight loss. So that would be my only thing. So yeah, while it felt good, I think it's the dairy for me, and having all the other animals, like I seem to tolerate just fine.
I've seen a couple of folks that have had similar experience. They did it and it felt great for them for a while, but they did miss out on certain things. And especially you hit the nail on the head, the dairy side for those that can tolerate it. And it just goes back to it. Yeah, it is. It's just delicious. You can't deny it. And especially for you, and we're going to talk about that now in your cookbook coming up. I can imagine that having that extra addition of the dairy in there for recipes for folks that may be starting out, and you can create so many things with the addition of that one simple thing, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, and that's another thing I have to be like aware of. I don't want this to just be like a dairy cookbook. I want it to be, and it will be for people that aren't having dairy. But yeah, I mean, adding dairy into the mix, I mean, that's kind of what's giving you these creative recipes. Otherwise, you're just having a piece of meat, which is great. And I think that's what we should prioritize. I definitely don't think you should be eating my carnivore chicken Alfredo noodles, every day, but what I'm going for is for those that need a little bit more than steaks and burger patties. Maybe once in a while you want to have something like fun and creative. So that's kind of my direction with this book, but also have a good like staple of cooking methods for like just meats. So it's not all going to be all these creative things, but how to cook ribs, steaks, chuck roast, all that simple stuff and the more creative ones.
I had this feeling, Courtney, and you can tell the listeners about how this all came about with the cookbook coming up, but you're just so great at this whole social media thing. You're so creative, and your videos you put out, they're clear, concise, easy to understand, and really well done. So I was like, I have a feeling somebody's going to have to reach out to Courtney and get her to do a cookbook. So this is pretty recent. Yeah. And when are you looking to get it completed by, so the listeners can look out for it?
Yeah, I still can't believe this is happening. I think announced it only like a week ago or a week or two. So it was in the works about a month before I announced it. We just had our official kickoff call with the team last week. So I am officially like in it and starting it. I'm working with the VP of the company has been on the calls, another contact lady that actually she found me on TikTok, and that's how this is all starting. And then a meeting with the editor, and then the director of communications. So she's going to be like doing the publicity and the communications and the media side of things, the marketing. So that was cool to like finally talk to them. So I got like all this information. I have a PDF of 60 pages on how to write a recipe, because it's like, well, I shouldn't say this. I'm not an author because now I have to be, but I'm not a writer. I'm not a bookmaker. Like I cook. So now I have to figure out how to like get this all on paper. And luckily I have this team. But yeah, so we're just now like diving in, and I have a deadline next week to get my table of contents done. So send help. My final deadline is January 31st. So I will be handing over my manuscript by then, which is very soon in this whole world of things. They allowed me to do the timeline. They're like, if you want to do it in 6 months or 2 years, let us know. It's like, okay, well, I'm very impatient. Like, this needs to get out and be available as soon as possible. No one wants this in 2 years. I mean, it will still be relevant, but like, you can't wait 2 years for this. So I'm going to be cranking out and photographing my own about 3 to 4 recipes a week until my deadline. And then they're going to need about 6 to 9 months after that to do all the things. Whatever the heck they're going to do, that's how much time they need. And so this is hoping to be released in fall of 2024.
I'm going to be one of the first people to order your cookbook and get my autograph copy, Courtney. And I'll be like, I
Thank
know
you.
her. I know her. Like, super proud of you. I mean, with everything you've got going on, being a mom and wife and social media, to be doing this. And again, doing this for folks, it's just really great. So good for you and congratulations again.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited. I mean, it's surreal. I can't wait for, I mean, I want to enjoy the process, obviously, but I just can't wait to like be done and have this thing in my hand. Like, it's just so crazy. Like the whole imposter syndrome starting to kick in. Like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, why me? How did I get this? Like, it just seemed like a once in a lifetime opportunity because I was planning on putting together a cookbook, but I was going to make that thing in Canva and throw it up on Amazon for print on demand or, digital download. So the fact that I was approached by a well-known publishing company and have a team holding my hand and helping me do all this is just like, I'm just so grateful. It's wild.
Yeah, and it's super exciting because I know you and I know from watching you for a few years now in this space that it's going to be super approachable for folks, which is really important. Courtney, let's talk about now, book aside, and I know it's a little different right now. One of the questions I have to ask you is, what does a typical day of eating look like for you now? Because someone, that's a typical question folks have. Well, what do you eat in a day? Now, I know you're doing recipes for your book, so things have changed, but if that aside, what would it look like for you right now?
Yeah, if I wasn't doing all that, it would just be simple. I would usually eat like twice a day. So I'd have like a late breakfast of probably some burger patties and maybe some bacon and eggs. And then dinner would be steaks. And sometimes I'd have some creamy coffees or maybe some cheese or some yogurt. But yeah, like very, very simple. And once in a while, I'd, make one of my pork rind waffles. But I don't often, like, it's not like every day I'm making these involved recipes for us. I keep it really simple on a day-to-day basis.
Again, that's similar to myself. And like you, Courtney, I've kept coffee in. It's just something that I absolutely love in the mornings. It's been a ritual for me. I know. I tried once to cut down on the caffeine side of it, and I went all the way down. Then I went on my 50th birthday trip to Alaska, and I just went right back on the coffee caffeine train. It's been really difficult, especially because, like you, I like a little heavy cream in there, and it's just so delicious. Now, are you on decaf? Do you drink regular?
I gave it up for 3 weeks with Lion Diet, and I felt so good without it. Like my energy in the afternoon was great. Like I realized I do not need the caffeine. So that being said, I do still have a little bit of caffeine. I have like an espresso thing, so I add in mostly decaf and like a little sprinkle of regular caffeine in there just for the morning. But I've really cut back. I've been really mindful because I would, even if it was decaf, I'd be like drinking them all day. It was like I'm a drink person. So it was kind of like a crutch. So trying to replace that habit with some sparkling water or like some element water and not just be drinking, bean juice all day long.
Here's the other favorite Courtneyism. I love the hot bean juice. I think I put a video out where I said that when I got to KetoCon. Thanks to Courtney, I'm having my hot bean water this morning. I love it. Courtney, let's talk about, as we sort of start to wind down, let's talk about, and we hinted at it earlier, the other lifestyle levers alongside the carnivore diet that you've started to employ. I absolutely love the video of you and your husband's new cold plunge and you doing that. Did you end up going live? I think I missed it when you went live. Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
saw the after video, but that was great. So talk to us about the other things that you're doing now.
Yeah, this cold plunge. So I've only done it once because we just got it. But I'm like, I can't wait to do it again. I was so terrified to get in there because it's cold and it hurts. But once you're in there for a little bit, your body goes numb. So it doesn't hurt anymore. And just the rest of the day, I felt so amazing. I don't even know how to like quite explain it, but I felt like I could go take on the world and kick ass. Like I felt really like motivated. And I also felt like really happy. Like I guess it's doing something with like your dopamine and all that. It's giving you like a good dopamine hit, like in a good way. And it was amazing. So unfortunately, we emptied it yesterday. We're trying to figure out how to safely keep it when we have little kids at home. Like I would assume they wouldn't go in there, but having a big tub of water with little kids. So unfortunately, it's not going to be easy for us to access it every day. So we're figuring that thing out. But like, I want to go in it every day. It was life changing. So that's my new favorite thing. As far as like other biohacking stuff, I have like a red light that I use here and there. I need to be better about it. Try to get some morning sun. Also need to be better about that. But just getting outside and getting daylight in general. I don't know. I'm trying to think what other little things we use. I'd love to get a sauna. If anyone wants to send me one, I'll take it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was just about to hold up. I've got my blue light blocking glasses beside me at night, so I use those. I have an infrared sauna blanket that I use, which I found very helpful, especially in my oxalate journey. As I mentioned to you earlier, I cold plunge for almost the whole summer and even into the winter last year by just using my bathtub. So you can just fill your bathtub, and then I got two big bags of ice and went in there. And you're absolutely right. It's just like boom, you got to mentally get over it. So your brain's really switched on afterwards. And it's really cool. I found it helpful, especially for, believe it or not, like inflammation in my body, really brought it down, everything. And you just feel, as you said, energized for the rest of the day.
Yeah, it was really awesome. Yeah. And even like, I feel like cold showers are good too, but it's just different. There's something about being like almost all the way submerged that felt really different than doing the cold showers. Yeah. I can't speak highly of it enough. And I've only done it once.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And it's inspired me to get back in the habit. I'm gonna do one this week and I'll probably film myself doing it and say, Courtney, this one's for you.
Nice. Yes. Please tag me so I can see it.
Courtney, I've seen your cooking equipment. I think you have a smoker, you have your Instapot. What else do you have in your kitchen that you recommend to folks that want to get into it and what you'll be putting in your cookbook for folks that are starting out?
Yeah, love my smoker. That's my new favorite thing. And honestly, you don't even have to cook the whole thing in the smoker the whole time. Like just putting it in for 30 minutes and then finishing it somewhere else if you like. Like brisket takes so long. I'm not gonna, I mean, I guess I could, cook it for 12 hours in the smoker, but I like to put it in just for a little bit in the smoker, give it that flavor, and then throw it in the instant pot. And then it gets super tender really quick. So I love that. I love my instant pot. I do a lot of stuff in there, especially for those tough cuts. Air fryer, like that's another go-to. And my grill, I rarely cook steaks and burgers on my stovetop. I like the fire hitting it on the grill. It tastes better to me. But when I am cooking on the stove, I always use cast iron. And I think that's it.
I have the Instapot, I have the air fryer, I have my grill. I must admit, I've got some jealousy over your smoker. That thing looks awesome. I really love to get one at some point. Maybe not right now, but in the future for sure. Lastly, what's besides the cookbook, which is enough for itself? What's next for you? What do you want to achieve on all? You have just grown exponentially. I'm so proud of you when you got picked up by the UK tabloids that time, and there was that article on you, and you're just influencing so many people. What's next for you? What do you have besides the cookbook? I mean, the focus has to be the cookbook, but anything else that you're kind of working on in the back of your mind?
Gosh, that's actually a really good question. I am open to whatever opportunities want to come my way. I would love to, I don't even know. Like I just love what I'm doing and sharing this and helping others. So any way I could do that more, I would love to do that. So yes, I mean, the cookbook is going to be, the next huge project, my baby. But I'm also going to be in October. I'm going to be cooking for Bronson and Natalie's retreat. So I'll be cooking for them. And yeah, I'm manifesting and just putting it out there, whatever anyone wants to bring my way that I can help others and be a part of, then I'm down. But yeah, I don't have any other ideas besides like going to KetoCon would be like the next hurrah, but that's all I've got going right now.
That'll be super cool because you will have just submitted your cookbook, fingers crossed, by the time the next KetoCon rolls around. And everyone, hopefully, maybe we'll get you speaking at KetoCon, Courtney. That would be cool.
Well, that would be cool. And I've already asked because they messaged me to like, because I promoted for them last year. I'm like, well, I want something more this time. I want to be a part of it. So yeah, maybe I shouldn't be saying this all right now, but I do have plans to reach back out and see if we can collab in some way, either me speaking on like the food side of things, or maybe I have a little area where I'll do some like cooking, like actually like a cooking demo or something. Like I think it'd be a fun collaboration because it would be at a perfect time to also be promoting my book for pre-sales, I would assume. So yeah, we'll have to see, what Robin will give me.
Robin, you heard it first from James and Courtney. We have to get this lady on something, on a panel, on something, because her content is so inspirational, not only from her own personal journey. So folks, go check her out. And we're going to discuss where to find her in a second. But your transformation is just inspirational for so many people. And just thank you for sharing your journey on everything that you do. And speaking of which, I'm a big fan of yours and Devan's podcast, Eat Meat and Question Everything. Do you have anything special coming up? I mean, you've interviewed some phenomenal people, you ladies, and doing a tremendous job. Any podcast stuff coming up for you?
Well, we have taken a huge break and we are just now going to start it back up. We're pulling back a lot. We have decided we're going to do the first Friday of every month will be an episode. So only one a month instead of once a week. We just interviewed Sean from The Intentional Carnivore. So we plan on doing our own, like me and Devan, like the kickoff, I guess, doing one before that to just kind of get caught up and let everyone know where we're at. And Sean will be our kickoff. And then we have nothing scheduled after that. So we're just getting back into things. We have a long list of people that we want on it. You, of course, are on the list. But now that it's going to be so pulled back in what we have been doing, we're trying to we're both like homeschool moms also trying to, show up on social media and just, so we're trying to figure out the balance for sure.
Yeah, absolutely understand. Courtney, this has been an absolute pleasure. I always enjoy catching up with you, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy day. Where can folks find you online if they want to connect with you?
I am everywhere. So I'm on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Clapper. I think that's it. My handle is it's Courtney Luna, except for YouTube, it's just Courtney Luna. But yeah, come say hi, slide into my DMs, and yeah, thanks so much for having me.
You're more than welcome. And I just wanted one last question for you, Courtney. I know you've got your How to Carnivore, that 101 guide that you have that folks can purchase. I think it's $7.99 if memory serves me. You also have a free resource called Your 5 Favorite Recipes as well. Is there any other? I know your website. Do you still do any of the coaching stuff, or is it just more the website now is for promo a lot of your links and stuff?
Yeah, we're done with the coaching for now. It was just too much on my plate. So no more coaching. But yes, so even my website is all like there's not much. I mean, there is, but like there's not even like recipes. I think I have one recipe on there because my website was actually from before carnivore. So I had to pull everything from it and I haven't had the time to get much up. But yes, with the 5 favorite recipes, if you click on that and you go to download it, it will also give you a grocery list PDF too. So yeah, I mean, my website needs work.
One step at a time, Courtney. Yeah, you've got a lot on your plate, all puns intended. It's really, really great. And thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to see you and to talk with you, as I said before. And I hope that we can connect in person again soon, maybe at KetoCon next year, if not sooner, Courtney. Best of luck with everything. Best to you and your family. And thanks for taking the time out.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Carnivorist Chats. If you've made it this far, I want to say thank you for listening, and also thank you in advance for liking, subscribing, or sharing this episode. Thanks again to the good folks at Carnivore Bar and Equip Foods. Don't forget to check the link in the show notes to get a discount on their products. And also, don't forget you can book me for a 30-minute carnivore coaching session. Again, the link will be in the show notes. Until the next time, be well.